Hello, it is me again with a good old-fashioned, there's Arlo, with a good old-fashioned talking while I do my makeup video. I thought what I would do as a nice update is do a birth story type video. I used a nice clickbaity headline just because I think it's really funny to call it a virgin birth. Which is technically true, right? I am a virgin and I've given birth. I'll pop in a picture. I did a fun like Virgin Mary photo shoot, but I will do a nice single mom by choice birth story. So starting with like birth plan type stuff, I had planned to give birth at a hospital with a nurse midwife. So I've been seeing midwives, my pregnancy along with one OB that is like there. But I set up to go there. I also hired a doula. So I always kind of planned, expected to have no one but a doula there. I am not stellar with like vulnerability or like people seeing me upset or in pain. So I was like, I don't really want anyone there. I'm good. So that was kind of where I was at planning wise. And then my pregnancy was like super smooth. I really didn't have any issues besides I had probably like borderline gestational diabetes. So I had the bariatric surgery, which means I couldn't do the traditional glucose test where you like drink that sugary stuff and then check your blood sugar. Because my stomach is smaller, it like processes differently. So I just had to do finger pricks for a period of time. And my blood sugar was never consistently like high enough to be diabetes, but it was sometimes high, sometimes normal, spiked enough that they were like, just keep monitoring it for the rest of your pregnancy. So I monitored it most of my like the rest of it, right? My last trimester. I was just like cautious about a couple things, but didn't officially have gestational diabetes. But in some ways they treated me like I did, including a couple, like an extra sizing ultrasound. And I know because I've studied like childbirth education and all this stuff, like I know ultrasounds are not very accurate necessarily. They can vary by about a pound in either direction. But they were like, the baby looks pretty big, was measuring at 38 weeks at like 9 pounds, maybe plus a little bit. Sure. So they wanted to induce me and I was like, I don't know. But I agreed to be induced at 39 weeks with the idea that I was going to try and avoid Pitocin, right? So they had me go in to do Cervidil, which is like the little pill they put to soften and open your cervix. They thought about doing a bulb, but they did not do a bulb because I wasn't really dilated enough. So then we'll get to birth story. So I was originally supposed to go in Thursday at like 8 a.m. They said, call us at 6 o'clock. We'll tell you when to come in, whatever. And I thought that was a little weird because normally they do Cervidil overnight, but okay, I'll do whatever you say. Sure. But when I called, they were like, we actually don't have a bed right now. Can you come in tonight? Call us back at 6 tonight, which is fine, except I was supposed to have a hair appointment that day. And I had obviously canceled it because I thought I was being induced. And so I had done an overnight like color shampoo thing, whatever. Well, then obviously I could have tried to still do my hair, but she got booked. Anyway, either way, this is like not important to a birth story, but just know that I then had the whole day free. I'd already like put in for my leave at work, whatever. So I just sat around all day like, guess I'll die of anxiety. I don't know. But my mom and her boyfriend came over, we went to dinner, and then I called and they said, you know, come in around 8 o'clock. So we go in at 8 o'clock. My mom went with me to like check in and everything, and they checked me and I was still like barely 1, but I'd been kind of crampy all day, but nothing else. So they say, okay, we're gonna give you the Cervidil. We'll put it in, and then in 12 hours we'll check you, and like I'm sure in their head they were like, can give you Pitocin, even though I was over there like, I'd really like to avoid Pitocin. I'm sure they were just humoring me, but fine. And I was like, Mom, go home. I'm just sitting here, right? And so they said, do you want an Ambien so you can sleep before we check you and probably give you Pitocin? Okay. Yeah, I'll take an Ambien. So they put in the Cervidil around 10:30, I would say, is when they finally got that done. So they did Cervidil, gave me some IV fluids, because I don't drink enough water, and then gave me an Ambien. I sent my mom home. I hung out for a little bit and like watched a couple shows on an iPad, chilling, and then went to sleep. The rest is kind of hazy because I had taken an Ambien. And instead of 12 hours later, them checking just to make sure I was dilated a bit and giving me Pitocin, it sent me into basically active labor pretty quickly. And I remember pieces, but I was like half asleep the whole time, which I think might have helped because I was so like noodly that I was probably relaxed in a way, right? And that it like helps you open and whatever. But I literally don't remember much. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, so like 6 hours later, I texted my doula to tell her to come. And she came, and right before she came, my water broke. I was literally just laying in bed, like again, basically half asleep. And so I remember like feeling contractions and that they didn't feel good, but I wasn't really doing anything. So my doula came and my water broke, and they went to check me and they're like, hey, you're probably a few centimeters, whatever. And I was like 8 centimeters. Okay. When my doula got there, her name was Amani. She was great. Loved her. I did a little bit of like, she had me stand up and do a couple like position-y type things, right? And like hip squeezes and whatever. And I told her to go ahead and call my mom because my mom was going to be like at the hospital, right? But I had told her I didn't want her to be in the room because I don't like people seeing me. Anyway, so she called her and told her she could come, like, you know, not to rush, but whenever. And I got back in bed and basically same thing. I was like, I'm feeling things, but I wasn't really talking. I also like didn't make any noise basically. Like I went full Katie Holmes Scientology silent birth and just like laid there like, huh, that kind of hurts. My mom got there at some point and hung out, and because I wasn't like screaming or writhing or whatever, I didn't care as much if she wanted to like hang out there. And so let's see, so that was all at like 5 o'clock, and by probably 9 o'clock I was like, I really have to push. I'm pretty sure I actually in the moment described it as I have to fart more than anyone's ever had to fart, so if that helps you understand how this feels. I was basically in bed on my back up until this point the whole time. The hospital did offer water birth, but when my water broke, there was a bit of meconium, and so they didn't want to do water birth so that they could monitor that. And they had been trying to do like a not continuous monitoring, intermittent monitoring, and it was just like hard to get the baby on the monitor. So they tried even internal. I think they had trouble with because she had hair and it would like not stick, whatever. So I was just like chilling in bed, like, I guess this hurts, but I'm not awake enough to do anything about it. And then I was like, I really have to push. So I didn't listen. I was just like, okay, I'm pushing now, thank you. So everyone came in and I only pushed, I think, for like 20 or 30 minutes tops. And she like popped on out. I tore 2nd degree. I asked because they said you have a little tear, and I said, what degree is it? Because I wanted to know. And she said 1.5. Okay. So she was born and they put it on my chest, and I was gonna do like skin to skin, delayed cord, blah, blah, blah. But I think she'd gotten a little of the meconium or something. They had to take her over and like respirate her for a few minutes. Side note, my mom, because we didn't know the sex, first my mom yelled, it's a boy. She's not a boy. It was like when baby girls are born, their labia are like swollen, and my mom, quote, thought they were balls. So she's like, it's a boy, never mind, it's a girl. So that was a fun moment. And then they took Ezra over to like aspirate. And my mom was sitting there like texting someone. I was like, could you go with the baby? Thank you. So she went, they got her all worked up, and they brought her over, and then we did like skin to skin and nursed and everything. And then they like did the placenta, and it was all very quick and smooth. Like, part of the reason I haven't really done a birth story is it just feels so like quick and easy, I guess. But it's literally, I was basically asleep. I don't know, maybe I recommend Ambien as like a great labor technique, because it just had me all noodly and like, yeah, whatever. And then the baby was born. But I do think I was starting to go into like very early labor when they gave me the Cervidil, so that probably is part of it. This looks janky. But yeah, and then she was born. And so that was Friday morning at 10 a.m. So literally less than 12 hours from the time they gave me the Cervidil to the time that she was born. Which for, you know, a first baby being induced is pretty crazy. So I never had Pitocin or a bulb. The only things I had were Cervidil and an Ambien, and then an IV drip, but that's not like medicine. Yeah, and then recovery was pretty simple. It's so wild though. It's like you have a baby and they're like, yeah, you tore, here's a couple stitches, like here's like all this shit, and then they like check you one time and they're like, okay, see you in 6 weeks. But I didn't have any complications or anything. So that was Friday morning, and we left the hospital Sunday morning, mostly because the morning just made it an awkward time. Like Saturday night was not quite enough time for when how long they want to keep you there. So we just left Sunday morning and came home. And that is the story. I will say, once she was born, it was like I woke up, like was not hazy anymore. I started cracking dumb jokes. Like I think I did in the room pretty quickly after, say like, was that everyone else's first virgin birth too? Just, you know, because I can't control myself. So that was it. My mom did end up being there. At some point, I think when I was about to push, she said, do you still want me to leave? And I was like, I don't care. And again, it was consciously because like I was not acting a fool or like screaming or whatever, needing support. I don't know. I have issues. But so she did stay. I'm pretty sure when I said she could stay or said, I don't care, I'm pretty sure she like burst into tears, but it's fine. Everyone's fine. And yeah, so that was my pretty quick 11.5-hour induction. And I'm very happy with how it went. I had wanted to do natural as much as possible, which I'd say it was. No Pitocin, no epidural, nothing like that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm like, none of it's really single mom by choice specific, right? Besides that, I like obviously don't have a partner. I did hire a doula, which I would highly recommend to anybody, even though she was only there for really a few hours. It was very helpful. The funniest thing that happened is, so early on they had, I think, taken blood or something. And so I had, you know, like the gauze they put around you. And at some point in the night I took it off because it was annoying me. So I like pulled it off my arm. And I remember when my doula was there, I was up and she was doing hip squeezes. And I said, can you hand me a hair tie? And she did, and I put my hair up. And we later realized what she had handed me was the gauze. And so the whole time I had my hair up in like blood taking tourniquet gauze. So that was a fun time. But she was still great. She took my placenta and encapsulated it for me. She did like follow-up visits and belly binding. So even though it was only a few hours, I had a doula there and I didn't need a ton of like hands-on support then. Still highly recommend, still worth every dollar. So yeah, you know, hit me up with any questions. I don't know what questions you would have about my random birth story, but if you do, I can answer them. Like I said, I'll try and be a little bit more present on here. And yeah, thanks everybody. Have a great day.